Stay tuned now for Westchester Eye on the Radio with Peter Moses on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome, everybody, to Westchester Eye on the Radio. I am Peter Moses. Ardina and I are in the studio today. Charles is calling in from home. How are you guys
here,
doing
Peter.
today?
I'm here.
Yeah. Hey, Charles. Hey, Charles.
How you doing, guys? How you doing?
All right. Looking forward to a very interesting and informative show.
Yes, we have with us today, and it's a very serious topic, the police commissioner of the city of Yonkers. I am not positive how you pronounce your last name. I don't know if it's pronounced Mueller or Mueller. I'm assuming Mueller. Am I wrong or am I right?
It's Mueller. Thank you, Peter.
It is Mueller. Okay. Can't be sure because there have been ball players. Like there's a ball player for the Giants, the baseball Giants in the 50s, and his name was Don Mueller.
Okay.
So, now, just to set this up correctly, by the way, welcome to our show, and thank you very much for appearing.
Thank you.
I know you haven't been speaking very much publicly about this issue, but there was a terrible car accident last week where 4 young men were killed as a result of a gentleman who was fleeing an intersection and accelerated into another intersection. And these 4 young men, who are high school students, and all the principal of the school said they were all exemplary kids, were killed. And it's a terrible, terrible crime. Commissioner, can you give us a fill-in on the chronology of events as you know them?
Well, the first thing I'd like to do, Peter, is just to send out my heartfelt condolences to the families of Anthony Cruz, Randy Brisbane, Tamari Watkins, and Brandon Sierra, who lost their lives. You know, it's just a senseless death. So our heart goes out to them. You know, we've put out information as we have as far as what the chronological was. We have also put out video. I don't know if you guys have viewed the video, at least of the end point of this incident.
Yes,
yes.
It's almost too much to bear. It's just as a mother, it was just very bad. It was really unfortunate.
Yeah, it's just too much to bear, as you say. You know, I have an 18-year-old son, and I was at the scene that night in the aftermath, and you know, it's unimaginable what these families are going through right now.
Yeah, I can't imagine it either. Charles, you have anything you want to add at the top here?
Well, like the commissioner said, our hearts go out to these 4 families. They must be in pieces. These guys were as innocent as lambs. They were simply turning a corner, the wrong time in the wrong place, and this tragedy happened. 3 of them, I understand, went to Saunders High School. 1 of them went to Riverdale High School. So these are Yonkers families, Yonkers people. It's just an incredibly tragic and sad situation. I did have a chance, Commissioner, to see those 2 videos that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other videos available?
There are not. There are other videos. They're a part of the overall investigation. For the purposes of transparency, we tried to get out as much as we could, as quickly as we could, based on what we had. But now the real in-depth investigation begins, and that investigation includes, you know, our major case detectives, our crime scene unit, our digital forensics unit for pulling video, our traffic unit for the accident investigation component. The Attorney General of New York State may also take a look at this, which is a good thing. They're asking already for what we have based on it, so we can have an outside entity for the purposes of neutrality take a look at this as well, to make sure that everything was done the way it was supposed to be done. So, you know, now, you know, a lot of in-depth work is going. And also, you know, one of our detectives has really taken the lead. She's fantastic, and she's actually coordinating with the family on a daily basis, because one of the biggest things that we deal with when we have grieving families like this is, you know, the officers a lot of times will take, you know, a very close develop a relationship with the families as we're going through the process.
Commissioner, can you repeat again what entity or what people are performing the neutrality check of the investigation that you mentioned a second ago?
Well, Governor Cuomo, some time ago in 2015, and then the law was updated in 2020, that the New York State Attorney General's office has the option to investigate all deaths involving police. So this one, while it wasn't with a gun or anything like that, there was a police interaction, and there was this man ran into and killed the 4 boys. So they have the option of looking into that, and that just adds to the transparency of it.
All right, one of the things that we can talk about, we have 2.5 minutes before our first break, is the criminal record of Devin Haywood. Are you able to speak about that? Because this is not somebody... Charles described the victims accurately as lambs, but this guy certainly wasn't a lamb.
Yeah, I can't give you exact dates and times. I know that the individual has served time in federal prison and county prison, and has had a past history of reckless driving and dangerous driving that's been documented.
Commissioner, from what I have read, and again, this is coming from social media sources. I mean, this guy's got a rap sheet as long as my leg, and apparently he was out. I believe he was out facing charges of an incident on November 19th. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was for weapons possession. Is that correct, or am I inaccurate?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I cannot confirm that. I just, based on what we have and what we put out initially about it was that, he had been served time in federal prison, and he served time in state prison.
And he served time in Westchester County Jail in February. In 2018, he pled guilty to a felony drug possession charge, and was sentenced February of last year to a year at the county jail. And this is a guy with a long criminal record, and his nickname, according to the Journal News, was Tells. I have no idea why he would nickname that. But the fact is, there was nothing illegal discovered in the car, which does lead to a bunch of questions of what was going through this guy's mind. And I'm not going to ask you to give any opinion on that, because there's no way for you to know. When we come back, we'd like to talk a little bit more seriously or in more depth about the toll this has taken on the police department, because there have been rumors going around, unfounded rumors, about a police chase. And I think that's what we're going to talk about when we come back from this break. This is Westchester Eye on the Radio. We're speaking with Commissioner Mueller from the Yonkers Police Department. We'll be back after a Fox News and Business News break. Please stay with us. This is maybe the first time he's spoken publicly about this terribly tragic incident.
WVOX, the smart ad buy in the Golden Apple.
Fox News commentary.
A new strain of COVID-19. More next.
Newsmax TV. Everyone's talking about it. 30 million people are watching Newsmax for real news on President Trump, Biden, the election, and more. And make sure you vote in Newsmax's national poll asking if President Trump should concede. Just text VIRUS to 39747 and vote instantly. That's VIRUS to 39747. Watch Newsmax for great shows on major cable systems and free on Roku, YouTube, smart TVs, and more. Vote about Trump. Text VIRUS to 39747 today.
With London going into another round of lockdowns, one of the biggest concerns in the UK is a new strain of the COVID-19 virus. This one, according to reports, could be up to 70% more contagious, meaning it can be transmitted much more easily among the population. Given the fact that coronavirus is already highly contagious, this is obviously bad news, even though the new strain is not yet prevalent in the United States. On the brighter side, experts are saying so far it does not appear as though the more transmissible strain is any more severe, meaning the outcomes and symptoms are roughly indistinguishable from the virus we've been experiencing for months. Perhaps the best news out of this tough situation is that doctors say the vaccines, both Pfizer and Moderna, both still defeat this new strain of virus, which is crucial to stamping out this awful disease.
That's your Fox News commentary.
In the north end of New Rochelle, you'll find an absolutely top-notch printer, one of the very best in the entire county. Frank Michelli's Minuteman Press is known for its fine work far beyond the Sound Shore area. In fact, this particular Minuteman Press is certainly the class of the fleet when it comes to full-service community printing. Located just off North Avenue in New Rochelle in the narrow Waikagill walkway across the parking lot from Acme, Frank Michelli's Minuteman Press is a terrific resource for individual and small to medium-sized companies who want something very special when it comes to printing. No matter how big or how small your needs, you get the skill and craftsmanship of Maestro Michelli's master printers, all at very reasonable prices. From business cards to brochures, color copies, high-speed printing, individual booklets and flyers, it's Minuteman Press. Down that walkway when you're heading to Acme, offering quality printing at very good prices. Call Frank Michelli at Minuteman Press of New Rochelle, 914-576-0335, 914-576-0335.
Hi, my name is Jen Graziano, and I'd like to take a moment to tell you about one of my family's funeral homes, Zion Memorial Chapel. Zion Memorial Chapel is Westchester County's only independently owned, exclusive Jewish funeral home, and that makes all the difference to the families we serve. Our directors represent a team of compassionate, dignified professionals that work one-on-one with you to plan the final tribute to your loved one. The exceptional service we provide comes at a lower cost because we are independently owned. Unlike other area Jewish funeral homes, Zion stands alone and is dedicated solely to those of the Jewish faith. Whether you are looking to pre-plan and discuss the many options available to you, or if a death has occurred, Zion Memorial Chapel is the trusted name for Westchester's Jewish community in their hour of need. Visit us on the web at www.zionchapel.com to learn more about us, or call us at 914-381-1809. Our licensed funeral directors are on hand 7 days a week to meet one-on-one with you and walk you through every step of the process. We are Zion Memorial Chapel, a trusted name in Westchester County's Jewish community.
Did you or a loved one have a COVID-19 infection and you still feel like your brain is foggy? Are you fatigued, or do you have other lingering physical, mental, or emotional symptoms? This is sometimes referred to as post-COVID syndrome, and help is now available nearby. The Westchester Medical Center Health Network offers our community a post-COVID-19 recovery program for those who have had or suspect they've had a COVID-19 infection and continue to have health issues. Run by COVID-experienced specialists and located at the Westchester Medical Center in nearby Valhalla, this post-COVID-19 recovery program is one of the few of its kind in the nation. No need to go into the city for this care. It's right here in Westchester. The WMC Health Post-COVID-19 Recovery Program is accepting new patients and takes most insurances, including Medicare and Medicaid. Please request an evaluation online at westchestermedicalcenter.org or by calling 833-329-0095. That's westchestermedicalcenter.org or 833-329-0095.
VOX, the local station with a national reputation.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks are rising to record levels in afternoon trading after President Trump inked a COVID-19 relief bill. And shares of electric truck maker Nikola are jumping after a J.P. Morgan analyst said that he sees a less drama-filled news flow for the company in the new year. And AstraZeneca stock is spiking after multiple reports said that the British drug maker's COVID-19 vaccine is expected to be approved in the UK this week. And shares of Myovant Sciences are surging after its parent company unveiled an agreement with Pfizer to jointly develop a treatment for prostate cancer and women's health. And Tesla shares are higher after its CEO Elon Musk tweeted that taking the company private is impossible now. On a side note, Tesla will come to India early next year, according to the country's transport minister. The electric car maker will start with sales and then might look at assembly and manufacturing based on the response. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
Newsmax TV. Everyone's talking about it. 30 million people are watching Newsmax for real news on President Trump, Biden, the election, and more. And make sure you vote in Newsmax's national poll asking if President Trump should concede. Just text VIRUS to 39747 and vote instantly. That's VIRUS to 39747. Watch Newsmax for great shows on major cable systems and free on Roku, YouTube, smart TVs, and more. Vote about Trump. Text VIRUS to 39747 today.
1460 WVOX.
Let's return to Westchester Eye on the Radio with Peter Moses on 1460 WVOX.
And we are back out of our commercial break, folks. You are listening to Westchester Eye on the Radio. I am Ardina Stewart, along with Peter Moses and Charles Stern, who's on the phone. And our guest today, we are privileged to have the police commissioner for the Yonkers Police Department, Commissioner John Mueller, and we are talking about the horrific accident that happened a few days ago in Yonkers and claimed 5 lives. The 5th belonged to the perp. Commissioner, before the break, we started a discussion on this issue of hot pursuit, an alleged police chase, where there appears to be no evidence of such. But the conspiracy, pundits, aka conspiracy theorists, are alleging that there is video out there which would prove that there was a police chase. So I'd like you to expand on that.
Yeah, what we can tell you is what we put out right away, and that was the video at the tail end of the incident, where the officers clearly were not in vehicle pursuit. They were not driving at a high rate of speed, not nearly where the other vehicle was, and as time goes on, like I said, this is the time now we pull every last bit of video we can. The officers, what we do know is that the officers did attempt to make a traffic stop. We do know that the driver of this vehicle took off, and we do know that the officers were behind them based on the video we saw. Now that the thing is to put everything that happened in between into context, into perspective. But to do that, we have to make sure that we have all the information, that we're working from a factual basis. It's a challenge for me and law enforcement in general to want to get information out, to be transparent as possible, but at the same time we also don't want to put out incomplete information or potentially inaccurate information because we haven't properly vetted everything. So, what we can say is this is a terrible tragedy, as we've said, and my heart goes out to the families. But we will leave no stone unturned. We will investigate every possible avenue. The vehicle itself, the distance, the car from the beginning to the end of the incident, the condition of the road, the accident reconstruction, all these things. The video, we're trying to get as much video as we can from beginning to end. So as that stuff comes in, and it does take time to do it properly, we'll have a very good point. But what we do know is that at the tail end of the incident, the officers were not in pursuit. It's clear.
Commissioner, all police departments have their own set of procedures. What is the textbook procedure within the Yonkers codes, police codes, about what they should and shouldn't do after a traffic stop goes awry?
Okay, that's a great question. There's so many situations are so different. But we do have a robust policy about vehicle pursuits, what is to happen if one does occur, while it's happening, and then after it's happening. I think what you're looking for, and I'll try to answer as best I can, what type of considerations are officers thinking about when they decide to engage or disengage in a pursuit? Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah,
I just want to know what
you're thinking about all things that most people would review as common sense.
Yes.
What are the weather and road conditions? Is it raining out? Is it icy? Is it snowy? That would lead to a higher likelihood of an accident. What is the severity of the crime? Do you know who the suspect is already? What is the speed? What is the density of the vehicle and pedestrian traffic in the area at the time? So, if it's, when we all know and love Yonkers, but, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when school's letting out, there's a lot of people walking, a lot of people driving, there's a lot of buses out there. It's so many different types of conditions that the officers are considering.
There are some police departments who, as policy, do not chase.
Yes.
Yonkers has no such policy. It's up to the individual officers involved to make a determination of whether they're going to be in a in an RMP pursuit of someone.
It's not necessarily up to the officers. There are guidelines that kind of lay out what you can engage and cannot. Like for a serious felony, I know that there's some conversation nationally that we should, the police should never chase anyone. And I would say, well, what if it's a murder suspect? What if it's a child predator? There's so many different things and that come up that we can't just take that position, because if we do, then no one is going to feel the need to stop. And we have to always keep that in mind, that this entire thing, this most horrible, it's the worst accident I've seen in my 28-year career, could have been avoided by the individual just pulling over and complying. So, but there's lots of different things. Like I said, if we knew who the person was, we wouldn't feel the need to do that. And depending on what the nature of it is, how much danger it is to other people in the area, and different things like that. So,
and is it too early in the process for you to come up with a preliminary determination that you think that your officers did or did not follow the policies set forth by the manual?
Absolutely. When the investigation is what you're describing is going on right now, so we can't really speak because we don't have all the facts together in one piece of large information. So once we get that, yes, they will match up the fact pattern of what occurred from beginning to end, and they'll match it up with the policy, and then we'll determine if the officers were operating within policy or not within policy.
What would you like to say to the people who are spreading rumors that your officers were in a high-speed chase with this gentleman at the time of the accident?
I'd like to say that, intentionally we put out the video as quickly as we could to show that was not the case, that if you look at the video, it's clear that the officers were approximately 15 seconds behind the vehicle. 15 seconds behind at one particular intersection. And again, for the purposes of transparency, we in law enforcement try to get out as much information as quickly as we can without getting out inaccurate information, like I said. And I know that, working for the New York Post, you'd understand there's a balance there of wanting to be open and transparent with, again, we always follow the facts. But you also don't want to be so quick that you put out inaccurate stuff. So we put out what we had. So to those folks, it's just simply not true. If you look at the video, the vehicle, the police vehicle is 15 seconds behind the vehicle that took off and ultimately killed the four young boys.
So if I may double click on that, yes.
Charles, by the way, we have a minute left.
Okay, I see the 15-second gap that you are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That 15-second gap occurred at the intersection of Morris Street and Riverdale. Peter, when we come back, we should double click on that a little bit.
Well, Charles, when we come, I'll say it on the air. You're going to bring us back.
Okay, great.
All right,
I will do so.
I'll text it to you when you're supposed to come back. But all right, so we're speaking to John Mueller, who's the police commissioner of the Yonkers Police Department. He's giving us reasons why knee-jerk reactions to police actions are many times misguided. As someone who covered the NYPD for much of my adult life, and also worked and covered Yonkers cops, I know that's a fact. We'll be back after this commercial break. Please stay tuned.
With world and national news, here is the latest update from Fox News Radio on 1460 WVOX.
Fox News, I'm Ann Carrick. Signatures and vetoes. The president signs the government spending bill, keeping federal offices open and allowing for new COVID-19 relief. Fox's Jared Halpern.
President Trump sent back the National Defense Authorization Act without his signature.
Congress plans to override that veto later today. Evidence in the Christmas morning bombing in Nashville is being analyzed by the FBI at Quantico.
They're analyzing that evidence to determine what the objects, the substances that were used in for the explosion.
Director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, David Roush. Control of the U.S. Senate will be determined next week when 2 runoff races in Georgia are decided on January 5th. And in South Africa, the president reimposed a ban on alcohol sales and closed all bars as part of new restrictions to battle a resurgence of coronavirus, including a new variant. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
Sponsored by the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee.
In the north end of New Rochelle, you'll find an absolutely top-notch printer, one of the very best in the entire county. Frank Michelli's Minuteman Press is known for its fine work far beyond the Sound Shore area. In fact, this particular Minuteman Press is certainly the class of the fleet when it comes to full-service community printing. Located just off North Avenue in New Rochelle in the narrow Waikagill walkway across the parking lot from Acme, Frank Michelli's Minuteman Press is a terrific resource for individual and small to medium-sized companies who want something very special when it comes to printing. No matter how big or how small your needs, you get the skill and craftsmanship of Maestro Michelli's master printers, all at very reasonable prices. From business cards to brochures, color copies, high-speed printing, individual booklets and flyers, it's Minuteman Press. Down that walkway when you're heading to Acme, offering quality printing at very good prices. Call Frank Michelli at Minuteman Press of New Rochelle, 914-576-0335, 914-576-0335.
One of the most important things our local WVOX radio station is known for is to alert and inform our many loyal listeners about schools, churches, temples, meetings, after-school activities delayed or canceled when snow and ice storms arrive. These announcements are the kind of information everyone in Westchester needs to hear about right here on 1460 AM. Official, all-important, informative, and informational storm announcements, and they are being made possible through the generosity of New Rochelle Chevrolet at 291 Main Street right here in New Rochelle. New Rochelle Chevrolet is a superb Chevrolet dealership, always friendly and welcoming to their customers, helping them get in on really good deals because they know that Westchester shoppers deserve the best. And the staff at New Rochelle Chevrolet, with Frank Endress at the helm, only want the best for their customers. New Rochelle Chevrolet will be informing you as to what is closed on those snowy, wintry days because they have been named the exclusive sponsor of WVOX's Storm Alert. Thank you, New Rochelle Chevrolet, for bringing these reports to the WVOX listeners.
And now with your latest up-to-date forecast, here's Steve Pelletieri's Eye on Weather on 1460 WVOX.
Updated weather forecast for tonight. Skies are going to be mostly clear. Temperatures this evening generally ranging in the 30s. Overnight lows towards daybreak down near 30 to 35. Daytime Tuesday, look for sunshine. Our highs for the day, 35 to 40. Again, northwest winds at 15 to 25, gusting at 32, adding a little wind chill. At night, mostly clear down to about 20 to 25. And Wednesday, sunshine. Highs will reach the upper 30s to near 40. Climbing up Wednesday night. Thursday looks like some showers. Highs 52. New Year's Day, rain likely. Highs 50 to 55. Clearing for this weekend. I'm meteorologist Steve Pelletieri for 1460 WVOX, a Whitney Global Media Station.
1460 WVOX.
Let's return to Westchester Eye on the Radio with Peter Moses on 1460 WVOX.
This is Charlie Stern, and my co-hosts on Westchester Eye on the Radio are Peter Moses and Ardina Seward. Our very special guest today is Commissioner John Mueller from the Yonkers Police Department. Commissioner Mueller, you're still with us, right?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So what I want to do is break down some specific details. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be a criminal forensic expert. I have no experience working at Quantico, but I watched the two videos that your department provided to the public. And I kind of pieced together a couple of things. I want to check, sanity check here with you. When you're going from north to south on Riverdale Avenue in Yonkers, the tragedy occurred at the intersection of Culver Street and Riverdale Avenue. Correct. One intersection north of that is Morris Street. One intersection north of that is Tier Street. And the Morris Street intersection had a camera, which the YPD released a video of that camera. Mm-hmm. And you can see Mr. Haywood, who's the guy driving the car that caused the crash. He goes booming through that intersection. Mm-hmm. Let's just call it a high rate of speed. And 15 seconds approximately, I don't know if it's 13 or 14 or 15, it's about 15 seconds later, the Yonkers Police Department vehicle is seen cruising through the same intersection at a lower rate of speed. But without getting into the specific details, do you agree so far with what I've described?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the Quantico part, okay? This is just me pretending to be a more sophisticated investigator than I actually am. You can see the intersection of Pier Street in that camera. And I looked on Google Maps. It looks to me like Pier Street is about 400 feet or so north of Morris Street.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it took the YPD car about 4 seconds to get from Pier Street to Morris Street. It took Haygood 2 seconds to cover the same amount of screen.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that Haygood was, without knowing the specific numbers, Haygood was going approximately twice as fast as the YPD. Does that sound about right from what you've seen so far?
Well, again, I don't want to say, because I think that, will all come out when they do, as you say, that in-depth investigation. Accident investigation, the science of accident investigation is really just math. It's a combination of algebra and trigonometry. And then we also have looks like lots of video footage for us to piece together. So, you're on the right track for sure. As far as specifics, as you say, we don't know, but we will know. We are very confident we will know from beginning to end. It takes time to go through all that and make sure everything is correct.
If I'm approximately right, YPD was traveling at a rate that, one could say was within the range of a safe rate of speed at night for an experienced driver. Haygood was like a bullet by comparison.
Well, when you look at the video, I can speak to the video, and you're right. I mean, when you look at the video, the driver of the vehicle was going far, far faster from the video. And like I said, the evidence will substantiate that one way or the other, and it will actually probably, hopefully, narrow down exact speeds between how fast that vehicle was going.
So my question is that a pursuit? What do you call that? Do you call that pursuit? Do you call that following the guy? Was he following him?
Well, there's no question the police officers.
Why would he do that?
The police officers were definitely following behind him. I mean, that's irrefutable. It shows the video.
Right.
What I would say is that at some point between the time the accident occurred and prior to what we saw in the video, the officers made a conscious choice to disengage and not to follow closely behind or not to maintain speed with the driver. And so now the question is just piecing all that together through interviews, the video, the accident investigation, and all these other pieces to determine, when that happened and why. I mean, I'm not going to speak for the officers. I haven't, seen their interviews yet. And again, we try to wait, as in your many years with the Post, to make sure you have everything right before you open it up to the public. But what I can say as a police officer for 28 years is I'm guessing that there is a possibility that it may have gone through their minds that this was unsafe, and so they had to disengage.
Unsafe for themselves.
Sure, unsafe for everybody. Yeah, I mean, at some point, there's pursuits that go, and at some point they're called off, and a lot of times, officers will make a conscious decision before they're even told to call it off by a supervisor, to call it off themselves based on the conditions that they're seeing.
Commissioner, at what point do you set up roadblocks in these kind of circumstances?
We do not set up roadblocks. Roadblocks are not allowed within the Yonkers policy.
You see, because all police, as I said earlier, police departments have different sets of policies.
They do, and one of the reasons, Peter, it's a good point. I just want to build on that is because think about it. When you look at different types of situations, we live in a very densely populated area, so we're going to be much more careful with our pursuits. If you live out in Arizona, and I'm sure we've all seen those types of pursuits where the helicopter is following, the officers are following for miles, and sometimes 45 minutes. There's different conditions. It's better sight lines. It's no population whatsoever.
Absolutely.
It's flat road surface. So it's the reason why there are different policies for different jurisdictions is based on the physical environment. And the physical environment includes straightaways versus turns. It includes densely populated areas,
hills, and what time of day. I mean, whenever you read about, or in the case of Ardina and myself, covered these kind of events, we usually, Ardina and I both started in the morning when she was at Channel 7 and I was at the Post and then later Channel 9. I was a morning guy and the afternoon. But usually you're covering something of an incident that took place at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you wonder, what were these people doing out on both sides of this issue at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning? This happened in the daytime. This did not happen in the middle of the night. And at late at night, fewer people would be ancillary damage, meaning
it did happen
fewer
after
people
dark,
crossing the street. But this is in southern Yonkers, which is a very populated area, and the streets, while Riverdale's kind of wide, you got cars going in and out of parking spaces. You got parking lots there. You got intersections. I would say, from the perfunctory view that I saw about this, this sounds like a textbook example of trying to do this the right way and having a bad outcome that they had nothing to do with, or very little to do with.
I would agree with that. We'll let the facts show that and bear that out, and it will, one way or the other, because, again, where do we go? We go where the facts take us. And, that's what matters. That's what matters the most.
But there will be lawsuits. Every time there's an accident like this, there are lawsuits.
Yes.
And I know that
Peter,
yes.
Just for the sake of facts, this occurred between 9 and 10 o'clock.
This occurred. This occurred after dark. But still, that is a that's a dense population. It's heavily trafficked. I've traveled that road at all different hours of the morning, and trust me, there are always people out there, people crossing with baby carriages, taxis, and you have to be very, very, very careful. And I think, Peter, to your point about having worked you and I both worked the cop beat in New York City, and let me tell you, there were a lot of instances where hot pursuit was questioned, not because it was a bad thing, but because cops had to navigate some narrow, densely packed corridors in New York City, and they had to think twice about doing that.
Yeah, I'm sorry I got the time wrong. I don't know why I...
No, that's okay. I think what you said, Peter, it wasn't late at night, and that's accurate. It was between like 9:30 and 10. But one thing I want to build on from what Ardina said.
We only have a few seconds, Commissioner. We only have 30 seconds, so why don't we save that when we come back? And Ardina's going to bring us back for the final quarter hour, and we can build off of that after this break. This is Westchester Eye on the Radio on WVOX and WVOX.com. We'll be right back after this short commercial break for the final few minutes of our interview with the Police Commissioner of Yonkers, John Mueller. Please stay tuned.
With world and national news, here is the latest update from Fox News Radio on 1460 WVOX.
Fox News, I'm Ann Carrick. Signatures and vetoes. The president signs the government spending bill, keeping federal offices open and allowing for new COVID-19 relief. Fox's Jared Halpern.
President Trump sent back the National Defense Authorization Act without his signature.
Congress plans to override that veto later today. Evidence in the Christmas morning bombing in Nashville is being analyzed by the FBI at Quantico.
They're analyzing that evidence to determine what the objects, the substances that were used in for the explosion.
Director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, David Roush. Control of the U.S. Senate will be determined next week when 2 runoff races in Georgia are decided on January 5th. And in South Africa, the president reimposed a ban on alcohol sales and closed all bars as part of new restrictions to battle a resurgence of coronavirus, including a new variant. America is listening to Fox News.
It would be hard for somebody to get away with this by themselves. Somebody out there wasn't just an assistant. They got caught up in it.
Next on the House of Broken Dreams, we hear from a former Orlando homicide detective who is not giving up hope of solving Jennifer's case.
It just takes the right person at the right time, and one day may say something to the police, and the police will help a family find resolution.
Available now on Apple Podcasts.
Did you hear the news? Now you can. With instant updates from Fox News for Amazon Alexa. Breaking stories and top headlines. Daily coronavirus developments. The economy and so much more. Brought to you by Fox News, America's #1 cable news network. Plus, setup couldn't be easier because everything's ready to go in the app. Just say,
Alexa, play news from Fox.
In Fox News. It's the latest when you need it. On demand from Fox News and Amazon Alexa.
There are quite a number of neighborhood flower shops around Westchester County these days. As in all things, some are better than others. And in the Colonial Village Shopping Center on Weaver Street in Scarsdale, just to the north of New Rochelle, there exists a florist of very great style and renown. Colonial Village Flowers specializes in beautiful seasonal flowers arranged in good taste, with the lovely low-key result that all Colonial Village presentations, bouquets, and arrangements look like they were actually grown, collected, and gathered in the natural setting of your own garden. Good taste in flowers has for years been a special trademark of Joe Ward and his talented floral arrangers at Colonial Village, featuring the natural look without pomp or ceremony. So please, know that there is at least one flower shop on your classy wavelength. Joe Ward's Colonial Village Flowers at 1515 Weaver Street in Scarsdale. Call 723-2888. That's 723-2 and 3/8.
Hi, let me tell you a bit about Olivet Gospel Church. My name is Pastor Russell McLeod, and for over 20 years I have been pastor of this evangelical church. At Olivet, we seek to worship God in the beauty of holiness and to engage in a simple obedience to the Word of God. We have a growing and diverse community of worshipers who celebrate Christ so that you never forget the refreshing sense of deliverance and victory you experience in worship. When you visit Olivet Gospel Church, you leave with tools to be a builder in God's kingdom. Let me invite you to visit our place of worship at 3900 Dyer Avenue, the corner of 233rd Street in the Bronx, every Sunday at 8 in the morning, or for a second service at 11. You will be thrilled to participate in the praise and worship and receive an inspirational and comforting message from God's Word. Whoever you are, you will be at home at Olivet Gospel Church. God has given this church a history of ministry that goes back almost 50 years in the Bronx. Come, God will remove the roadblocks in your life. I am Reverend Dr. Russell McLeod.
Now, WVOX traffic.
Looking at traffic right now on the New York State Thruway going in the northbound direction. No accidents, but plenty of slowing leaving the Cross Bronx Expressway, getting up toward Mosholu Parkway. Then you've also got slowing on the Hutchinson River Parkway northbound from Boston Post Road to Cross County Parkway. I'm Karen Johnson in the Traffic Center for 1460 WVOX.
1460 WVOX.
Let's return to Westchester Eye on the Radio with Peter Moses on 1460 WVOX.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. We are down to our final 10 minutes of a very exciting show. I am Ardina Seward, along with Peter Moses, Charles Stern, and our guest is the Yonkers Police Commissioner, John Mueller, and we are talking about a tragic accident that occurred in Yonkers last week. And, Commissioner, you were trying to make a point before we went to break, so continue with that.
Thank you so much. So one of the things you brought up, Ardina, is, unfortunately, how much reckless driving we all see in the city of Yonkers. And it's my plea to ask everyone to please slow down. Please follow the vehicle and traffic law. Because so much can be saved if we do those very basic things. Just follow the law and slow down. In our citizen polls for what the public is looking for, our number one problem that comes up in these surveys, number one, is reckless driving. And so it's clearly something that's on the public's mind. It's something that the Yonkers residents are witnessing and are very concerned about. And to that end, we ended up doing a ticket blitz, if you want to call it that, a real strong enforcement message between May and September, where we wrote over 1,200 tickets, 1,200 tickets for excessive speed and vehicle and equipment violations. And this was done not just with the Yonkers PD, with our great partners in the New York State Police, great partners with Westchester County Police and Greenberg Police, because one of the things we're recognizing is it's a regional problem. So if we have the state police watching the Thruway and the Sprain, and we have the county police watching the Bronx River and the Sawmill, and we're watching the southern end of Central Avenue, and Greenberg PD is watching the northern end, we're able to create send a very strong message, and we need people to slow down. You've seen what the Nolan family has done. They've been visionaries with respect to really taking a strong role in getting legislation passed, and all kinds of stuff. So this impacts everyone. So we need I can't ask people enough to please slow down. Think about the consequences. If you could take it back, I'm sure the driver would take this back.
Did you check to see if Devin Haywood was one of those 1,200 people you gave tickets to for speeding?
I cannot. We did not do that. I certainly can check. But 1,200 tickets in 6 months for these specific violations, and admittedly, it was also loud mufflers and excessive speed and things like that. But to your point, Peter, like we're really looking, trying to get this under control. People just need to follow the rules. Everywhere you go, people will talk about how they feel like people are driving recklessly.
Commissioner, in 8 minutes, I can't unpack all of the reasons why some people are afraid of any interaction with police. That's beyond the scope.
Mm-hmm.
But to not lose sight of some basic foundational facts here, this individual was pulled over, and in the process of pulling over, he hit the gas and took off.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment, when you hit the gas and you take off, when you're in the process of being pulled over by the police, are you guilty of a crime at that moment?
There are laws on the books in the event of, I think it's evading a police officer. It's a New York State penal law, and I believe that it goes all the way up to a D felony if you're trying to unlawfully evade the police and someone else dies. I think it's an E felony if someone's seriously injured, and it may be an A misdemeanor if no one is injured. But in this particular case, that's why that law is there, because there are consequences for this type of behavior. There are and terrible consequences that these families of these 4 young men are going to have to live with the rest of their lives.
I got another lightning round question. In that video, I noticed that the lights were not flashing on the top of the police car that was trailing Haywood by 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Do they need to be?
Well, if they are in pursuit, those lights are supposed to be on, because we want to make sure that everybody's as safe as they can be and let us know we're going. But they were not in pursuit at that point, as far as we can tell. Therefore, they would not have them on. But again, that also is going to be a portion of, how we're going to, conduct this investigation and make sure that everything was done the way it was supposed to be done.
Commissioner, going forward, the whole issue about the speeding problem in Yonkers and throughout the region it's a real problem. I know that in Riverdale, which borders South Yonkers, citizens have been active with politicians to put up speed signs. They now have traffic cameras that are 25 miles per hour that are photo enforced, and I know because I got a $50 ticket.
Yeah.
And they also have set up that they're also asking for speed bumps, and a lot of that traffic apparently is bleeding over from Yonkers into North Riverdale, and people aren't putting up with it. So would we see going forward the same kind of traffic regulation in the South Yonkers area?
Well, as far as speed bumps are concerned, it's that would not be a determination that would be made by myself or the Yonkers Police Department. That would be done by the traffic engineers. They're the ones who have the professional expertise to decide if a speed bump in a particular area is what it should be. Now, we've seen issues when I was the precinct commander in the 4th Precinct in the northwest section of Yonkers. My community up in the northern end of Wilburton, the Hudson River Community Association, was very upset about a lot of speeding up and down Wilburton between Hastings border and south into Yonkers. And so we were putting up speed trailers. Now, the speed trailer does two things. Number one, it alerts the driver that they're going over the speed limit. I'm sure everyone listening has seen it, where if you're going under the speed limit, the number remains yellow and it doesn't blink. If you're going over the speed limit, it turns red and it starts to blink. So this is a way to remind drivers that they may be going over the speed limit. The other thing that's very helpful for these speed trailers is it does tell us what the average speeds are, where they're happening, and when they're happening. So in other words, that allows us to really be precise in where we're putting our traffic enforcement resources. So, for example, we're looking at, say a week's worth of data, and we see that, for some reason, maybe it's people who are on their way to work and they're late. There's an uptick in speeding, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. Monday to Friday. That's when we can put out our resources there to make sure that we can bring that under control. So those speed trailers are great. You're going to see much more artificial intelligence, as you see now, with respect to red light cameras. I know even for the loud mufflers, which is a real issue for a lot of Yonkers residents, in the UK, they're already having electronic AI cameras that can identify a decibel level that goes beyond the law, and then take a picture of the plate and then send one just like they do the red light camera. I don't believe, I would be surprised if speeding is not too far behind with that type of enforcement, to your question.
Wow. And we're getting into the final 2 minutes of the show, but I want to talk about building community trust with the police department, because there's been a lot of back and forth about the cops this, the cops that, blah, 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 blah. But how do you engender community trust with YPD?
That's a great question, Ardina. The way you engender community trust is the simplest way I can put it is the officers need to treat every single person like they would want their mother treated, or their child treated, or their brother treated, depending on the age, right? If my son was stopped, one of my 3 sons was stopped in a park at night, how would I want them spoken to? If my mother was pulled over, how would I want her spoken to? If you follow that very basic tenet, which is just common sense and just being a normal human being, you're really going to do it. What I tell the young officers, and our officers, the young officers we have are fantastic. They get the community component of this. I'm so proud of them. But what I tell them is every single call that you go on, you have an opportunity to make a friend. Every single call. It's what I call the 21-minute rule, Ardina. The 21-minute rule is you go to a call, and no matter, you could name what the call is, it doesn't matter. That 21 minutes that you're there, more or less, you make it all about the caller, because all of our residents are our clients. So when we do that, and we make sure it's all about them,
Commissioner, I hate to interrupt you, Commissioner, but we are actually running out of time. We'd like the opportunity to come and revisit this with you in a number of weeks, if you're willing to.
Sure.
Well, that would be great. It's a tough situation in Yonkers, and I think it's going to be many, many weeks before we know all the details of what's going on. I think,
right.
From what we can tell, the commissioner's going in the right direction of doing a full investigation, and the pundits apparently are wrong. Please tune in next week. We'll have another scintillating conversation with somebody in the news. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
WVOX and WVIP HD